eyes were on Battlefield for its launch, with expectations and anticipations of many, but no one really could be able to accurately predict where we'd be until it happened. The beta set records internally, the hype was palpable, but would it live up to all that hype and the expectations? Well, EA's report yesterday seems to confirm that, yeah, it seemingly has, and there's a lot to discuss about that. So today, we're taking a look at the reported numbers for Battlefield 6's launch, what this means for the game, and perhaps the industry at large. So drop your thoughts down below, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all things Battlefield 6 and even more FPS content. As we chase down 700,000 subscribers, I would love to have you in the community and along for the ride. And finally, it's spooky season. Today's video is brought to you in part by Rules of Engagement, the Gray State, but more on that a little later. For now, let's take a look at the launch of Battlefield 6 a little closer. So a few days ago, it was reported that Battlefield 6 sold 6.5 million copies through its first few days across PC and console, according to Alinea Analytics, amounting to about 350 million in revenue, and on Steam alone, apparently 2.5 million DAUs, or daily active users. Now, this was the first report of its kind that we had seen, and no one else really was talking about these numbers, so it was something that was met with a grain of skepticism. The one thing that was kind of, not red flag, but kind of like a yellow flag was that it was reported that 57% of sales were on Steam, and there was a drastic undercut to consoles that they had mentioned, which didn't and still doesn't feel right, but 6.5 seemed plausible. But with no real confirmation, that was all we had until it wasn't. Directly from a press release from EA themselves yesterday, they said, following a record-shattering open beta in August, Battlefield 6 now has the biggest opening ever in the storied Battlefield franchise. Battlefield 6 hit all-time highs for franchise sales during the first 3 days of launch, selling over 7 million copies and counting. Thanks to the series' passionate community, the game has over 172 million matches played online and accumulated over 15 million hours watched on streaming services during the 3-day weekend, as well as earning the most concurrent players for Battlefield ever. So that's a lot to take in. Financially speaking, conservative estimates, that puts it around 490 million in sales in 3 days alone, and that's just assuming there's 0 Phantom Edition purchases included in that, which that's just not the case. Like, I feel like I've seen a ton of Phantom Editions so far in game. So a range of anywhere from 490 million to, with no Phantom Edition sales, to 700 million if every sale was a Phantom Edition. In 3 days, that is not bad by any stretch of the imagination for Battlefield. And that's all through, again, the first weekend. So, like, there is a lot of time for this to continue to grow, to continue to have more sales, and with the holidays upcoming, all this buzz that we have right now, and probably even more buzz that we see with the Battle Royale once we get that here in the free-to-play springboard, we'll touch on that in a second, it's going to amount to even more. Right now, just through the first 3 days, the only games that have eclipsed it so far in lifetime sales, if these numbers are to be believed, is Battlefield 4 with 14.8 million, Battlefield 3 with 17 million, and Battlefield 1 with 25 million. So we are already that close to record-setting numbers as is. And again, if this is to be expected to continue to grow, which I think it will for a little bit of time at the very least, and then has the potential much more to grow with that free-to-play element that will translate into a marketing for the full game, not bad by any stretch. And also, I don't know if this even accounts for, like, the EA Play subscriptions. So, like, realistically, the players, not just necessarily the copies sold, the players could even be higher in regards to those numbers, which is definitely cool and plays probably into that mention of earning the most concurrent players for a Battlefield ever. Before we continue, a second for today's sponsor, Rules of Engagement, the Gray State. It's spooky season, so if you're looking for an upcoming game spanning the horrorverse, this one is one you should definitely keep an eye on. Rules of Engagement, the Gray State is an upcoming free-to-play genre bender, fusing core elements of game design and art direction, and is what happens when a tactical PvPvE shooter and an RPG have a baby. Set in the universe of all horror, this takes iconic movie monsters, urban legends, and even internet creepypastas and throws them into a world filled with all of them. In this world, the enemy operators are not your only threat. In fact, they may be a more favorable demise. It's high-stakes tactical action, intense monster and bounty hunting with RPG-style classes and skill trees to navigate and upgrade, with deep crafting potential and talent trees being an integral part of the game, allowing you to completely reshape how your class plays. This means that you can navigate the gameplay loop utilizing your class system and wit, sometimes being as important, if not more important, than your aim. It's unpredictable and strategic with a variety of monsters and maps you'll have to consistently change your approach for. Every squad will deploy with the same basic loadout, and what you do with it decides how successful you are. Hunting monsters, scavenging gear, and taking out other enemies, it's risk versus reward perfected. While the first phase of every run is loot focused, battling out against grotesque creatures to find gear you deem valuable, the next question becomes, when do you extract? at a safe personal exfil for that guaranteed profit, or do you risk it all out to hunt even more artifacts and more valuable gear, aiming to exfil with the final, heavily contested helicopter, the last ticket out? I feel like in the FPS space, it's not often that we see something that is truly like out there in game design and direction, but this makes that rather interesting when it comes together. Growing up with creepypastas and such, I love the take on the enemies you'll encounter. Visually, I think it's such a unique environment and I'm looking forward to exploring it all. And then you mix that with a core gameplay loop. I'm already a big fan of PvPvE extraction shooters, and then those class elements, it's got me intrigued to see how this all meshes together. If you're interested in learning more, check out the official Discord to stay up to date with their community, and make sure to wishlist the game on Steam if you plan on checking it out in the future. But that said, thanks to Gray State Studio for sponsoring this video. So Battlefield has really done the thing. To me, this is just really cool to see. I'm happy to see that Battlefield is at the forefront of the conversation again, especially after 2042 and 5's reception and player sentiment. I think that we've been long overdue for a killer Battlefield experience and the pressure that that then puts on the market for all gamers. Competition is the best thing for you and I. What this tells me is having a return to form, that classic Battlefield feel, to a degree. I know that some people disagree with it still, but to have that sort of North Star of classic Battlefield, to try and replicate that, listening to your core audience, the rest will follow. Forcing reinventions of the wheel where not needed, straying from what makes the classics classic, you'll eventually start to lose people, especially when you do it for years on end. But from every little bit that I've been able to see behind the curtain here, from every single person working on this project that I've met personally, they're all 100% in on trying to make this the best experience possible and doing it for the love of the brand. Zampella and co. really, from the onset, wanted to make this thing work no matter the cost, which honestly kind of ties perfectly into the next thing that I want to talk about with developing the game with the community. I feel like this game in particular, I don't want to like jump the gun here or anything, but I think that genuinely Battlefield 6 has the potential to be something that shakes up the way the industry works at its absolute core. I'd say there's probably like a 20% chance that we see more larger studios like this doing something like Battlefield does. I still think that a lot of the core of the publishers out there, the studios out there, they are absolutely rooted in the everything has to be secret behind closed door stuff. But Battlefield Labs, I think, could absolutely make a little bit of a ripple effect, no pun intended, in the industry where devs are like, oh, that worked pretty well. Because with Labs, I think that gamble absolutely paid off. There was a ton of feedback to be had, gathered for months and months and months on end, and there was communications of concerns early enough and through those channels for the Discord that they had with Labs and everything that could be accounted for and then adjusted. That feedback could have meaningful change because, I mean, how many times do you see a game revealed, there's a playable beta a couple of weeks later that's more accurately probably just a demo, and then you find something you don't like or that absolutely needs some adjustments, and then guess what? It's foundational. It can't be changed because it's one of those core principles of the game that launches in 5 to 6 weeks after you just played this air quote demo. So looks like you're stuck with it. So while it's not the wildest scenario, I mean, early access games are basically alive and functioning because of that communal developmental feeling. But when it comes to these games that have a 9 to 10 figure budget for that on a global scale, it's relatively, if not completely unheard of for a dev team to straight up just be like, all right, let's have our community playtest the game and get our feedback this early on. It was a risk, and it was honestly kind of hilarious thinking back to it when it's reported that people who pitched this idea of Labs literally wrote on internal presentations, what will leak? Everything. Like, they knew that was going to happen, and anybody with a brain could tell you that would happen as well. But I think it was definitely well worth the risk. I think that we saw this meaningful change from the first entries of Labs back in, what, March or April or something like that? But I think it was well worth that risk. And thus, that commitment, I think, is leading by example. They've committed, they're doing the thing, and they're putting pressure on the industry. Now, is this game perfect? No. Very, very, very few games I would ever even consider to say are perfect and garner like a 10 out of 10 rating. But this game is enjoyable. That's the biggest thing to me. I'm having fun with this game. It's got an incredible foundation with plenty of potential for future content, community work with Portal, and much more. I'm excited to see where this game goes, what the future holds personally. Like, Season 1 looks promising. We already know a lot of what's upcoming. Battle Royale, I know it's not necessarily everybody's cup of tea in the core Battlefield community, but in the sense of trying to grow that brand, trying to grow the game and the audience that it can reach, Battle Royale can be incredible for that growth and the free-to-play element. Using the sort of Battle Royale and what will be a gauntlet mode as well, coming along with a kind of testing ground for the experience of Battlefield, bringing in new players as a springboard here at that. So I'm hopeful that the future is just as bright as the game's launch. So far, cosmetically, thematically, content rollout, the transparency to talk about all of these different things in terms of bugs and issues that are being tracked, developers even directly communicating with the community, talking about, oh, hey, yeah, this is why this happened. We have fixes coming for this. That stuff is very appreciated, I think, because we see so many other studios, so many other games not doing that when it's a game at the scale of Battlefield or of some competitors out there. So when you have all that kind of stuff, it's appreciated. What the future holds, that's what will allow this to keep that sentiment, or if we see it fall off, if that growth continues going, or if we start to see drops in interest and player numbers and all that kind of stuff. Like, obviously, over time, player numbers are not going to be on Steam concurrently 400, 500, 600, 7,000 players all at once for the next year. That doesn't happen. But like, to see a hard drop off or a gradual drop off and potentially some growth again with that battle royale, we'll have to wait and see. We can predict, speculate, hope all we want, but we won't know until it actually happens. So for the time being, I'm just going to take this as a win for the franchise. I think it's great to see that all of this sentiment, all the seeming investment into this game has paid off to where it is going to potentially be one of the best-selling, one of the most popular Battlefield games. If not, dare I say, it has the potential to reach that #1 spot in franchise history. Like, obviously, we can have the discussions on, does it hold a candle to Bad Company 2, 3, and 4, and all that kind of stuff. That's entirely subjective, but in terms of, like, pure analytics, it has the potential. So, that said, just want to talk to you guys casually about the launch here of Battlefield 6 and the crazy week that it's been, honestly. Like, this past week has been a whirlwind. I appreciate you guys stopping by, checking out the content. Appreciate you stopping by the streams, all that good stuff. Looking forward to what the future holds here for this game and more. Love to have in the community. Drop your thoughts down below. Let me know what you guys think here of these numbers. Are you happy with the launch? Are you having fun with it? If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Battlefield 6, Arc Raiders, and even more FPS content I'd love to have in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Minus Espresso. See you later. Take care and peace.